My name is Elijah Selby, and you're listening in on the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm joined, as always, by co-host JP Bennett. JP, before we get started to what we're going to talk about today, I wanted to bring up some news that has recently come about in football itself. Cam Newton was recently signed to my team, the New England Patriots. I'm going to ask you first how you're feeling about it.
Well, I expect him to come in and compete, and I think that he will win the starting job personally. But as for the whole Patriots offense, I think it's going to be a little bit more exciting to watch the team. But I'm not really moving Patriots players up too much. I think it gives us like a slight bump to a Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry. But besides that, I don't think it moves the needle too much for these other players on the roster. I mean, I don't think he passes to running backs a ton. So I don't know. I think James White's value is kind of neutral from this move.
Yeah, and for me personally, being that that's my favorite team, um, I mean, I think it's great that the QB room is going to have that competition, that Cam Newton is going to have that experience, either if he wins it or loses it, to be there for Jared Stidham. Um, I was a big supporter in Stidham, so I'm not quite sure like how I feel personally if I want Cam starting or Stidham starting, but I know that for Bill, whoever wins is going to be the best QB for the job at that time, so I can't be too disappointed. And for a fantasy standpoint, yeah, I don't think anything really changes, and it is a little bit more exciting to see what's going to become of the team this year. If Cam does return to any sort of state that he was in, I think it's going to disappoint a lot of people that wanted the Patriots to do bad.
Right, yeah. I mean, his best rushing years are behind him. I don't expect him to put up huge rushing numbers, although he could still put up some numbers. But looking at him personally, just like Cam Newton as an option, I mean, he has, like, I think streaming potential, if he's a good matchup plan, but I'm not going to be looking to draft him this season.
Yeah, and also you mentioned his running years are behind him. We talked about how he's not the greatest pure passer, so I mean that does worry me a little, and I do think it's a possibility that Jarrett could still win the job over him with his time off of football. I really still can't say who's going to be starting at that QB position.
Yeah, and Stidham has the leg up on the system, being in it for the full year, and this is a strange offseason. It's going to be tough for Cam Newton to come in and learn the offense. So it's going to be interesting for the Patriots training camp because now they're going to be more invested in who's going to win the quarterback job.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Now that we've covered that, JP, do you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It is mock draft time.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. All right, all right. So, as you could probably tell with my screen right now that you're looking at, we have a mock draft planned for you guys, and this one's gonna be a little different from the last time. It's just gonna be us with a few bots about they're gonna do some auto picks, and it's also gonna be a little different with how our roster is gonna be set up. We have two flexes, and we got rid of both the defense and the kickers because we really want to dive in depth more on the other positions, and you can find out more about the other stuff ahead of time. And um, I think the other stuff is probably a little more interesting for us to talk about. So if you want to add anything onto that.
Yeah, well, we're going to be drafting on Sleeper here. And what I like about Sleeper is they're not just set rankings from so-called experts. It's based purely on average draft position. So, and also because it's just going to be me and you owning, we're going to share one team. We're going to discuss and argue and agree on who we should take.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, it's a 12-team league, so there's going to be 11 bots, but they're going to be picking instantly, which is nice. And also, like I said, it's based on ADP. They're not going to be taking kickers in like the 6th, 7th round because it's based on ADP and because we got rid of the position. But yeah, I mean, this is so much better than being in auto draft with auto drafters in ESPN or Yahoo because it's much more realistic with the average draft position.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Are you ready to get into it?
Oh, I am so ready.
So ready. All right. I'm going to click this button here. I'm going to begin draft. I'm going to confirm it. We're gonna get it going. All right. So as you see people coming off the board, your first round's going to be pretty standard. You might have people move around one position here or there, but that's pretty much what you're going to expect with all those positions to just happen. So,
Well, I see for some reason we made it 5 minutes per pick, but it went back to two. So maybe you can pause and change that. But we can see if you're watching the video here, first off was Barkley, Cook, McCaffrey. Of course, McCaffrey's probably not going to fall to the third, but it's randomized a little bit with ADP here. And then you got Zeke going fourth, Michael Thomas fifth, Kamara, Henry, Joe Mixon, Devontae Adams, and Kenyon Drake. And we are on the
mm,
board here.
so I
And,
paused the draft, so we have a little more
cool.
time.
All right, so if you're looking at wide receivers here, I like to look at running backs here, but if we're looking at wide receivers just to see who's here, we got Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and that's easily my top three options. And the only one I'd be tempted by is Julio Jones here. I like Tyreek Hill, but I have Julio Jones higher personally. But who would you pick if we were to go wide receiver here?
If we were to go wide receiver, yeah, I'm looking at them. I mean, some could say D Hop, but it's a new offense, so that puts me a little lower for him. I believe in his skill, but still, I put him lower than Julio Jones also because of Matt Ryan's potential up year. Tyreek Hill, the offense spreads out a little bit more than the Falcons, so there's another reason why I wouldn't go that way. You have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans down there. I think I'd stray away from the Buccaneers right now, just because, um, again, that's two wide receivers with Julio Jones already being the prime number one.
Right, yeah, I wouldn't even look those guys away at this point. But if we're looking at running back, which is probably where we want to go here,
It's definitely where we want to go.
okay, there's Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, and we've discussed this before. We just like to go running back early because the
Mhm.
depth just drops off terribly. I mean, Todd Gurley's going 22nd overall now. That's crazy. He's probably like the 14th or 15th guy. It's just running backs are flying off the board, so we cannot miss out on top tier options. So my pick would be Josh Jacobs here personally. I mean, it would be between him and Eckler, but Eckler I feel will come back to us.
Mhm.
And like I said, Josh Jacobs, I'd lock him in right here. I wouldn't think about wide receiver. Maybe since we're at pick 11, Julio Jones and Austin Eckler will probably be there when we come back potentially. So that would be my pick. Is
Yeah,
Jacobs.
and I think we talked about taking running backs early. I think you can see with just the average draft position, you're going to have running backs go early, which you see right here. 8 out of the 10 people that were chosen before us were running back. So it's definitely going to go fast, and with the not a lot of depth there, you want that first and second round running back. So as I'm looking at them, I mean, some people could question, oh, Aaron Jones did amazing last year. Um, but we have another video talking about him a little bit, but how we don't expect him to go as high, which you can see now with his average draft position has dropped a little. So looking at the people who are available, Austin Eckler, you made a great point. Miles Sanders is on his sophomore year. I expect great things, but for a round one running back, I'm not really going for that. Nick Chubb will have split carries, so yes, I think we were both in agreement right away with Josh Jacobs. Going to be getting that prime running back one fantasy status.
All right, I say we lock it in right here.
All right, I'm going to resume the draft.
And yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
I think I have Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler close in ranking, but I think I have Eckler a little bit higher. So when they come back around here, we'll see. So Tyreek Hill went off and DeAndre Hopkins. So
Yeah.
what makes this tough is I have Julio Jones ranked as my third receiver, so he's tempting. But since there's just so much wide receiver depth, I think we have to stick to the running back, which we have
Yeah.
our choice. I mean, none of them got taken, right on that turn. So I mean, being at this position, you have to gamble just a little bit sometimes. And I mean, if we really wanted Julio Jones and we gambled, we would have won that one. But
Yeah.
I know you really like Austin Eckler,
I do.
and
I just think he's still going to have a productive year, even with the drop back in the quarterback room. So
yeah,
I'm going
and
to let
if
you
we're
talk
looking at the
more.
other,
Yeah.
yeah, looking at the other running backs here, like you said, Nick Chubb, I don't want to take him this high because of the fact that he's not going to be the 80%, 90% snap count kind of running back. He's going to be splitting it with Kareem Hunt. Miles Sanders, I do like him. He's probably the second one I have behind Eckler here available,
Hmm.
but he's just a little bit risky because Doug Peterson has a a history of split backfields, and I think he might want to lighten his workload. Plus, he had such a hot start with all those receiving options hurt. But Eckler, yeah, I think he's got a really safe workload. I think his reception will come down a little bit, but I think his rushing attempts will go up, and he's still going to have a great year, I think.
Yeah, he is guaranteed more rushing attempts this year than he did last year, and the yards per attempt that he had last year were, I think, pretty solid. I think around a 5.0 yards per carry, so per attempt per carry. Um, so definitely looking at the people, Aaron Jones, we're still not high on. Todd Gurley could definitely fall again. It really drops off probably after Aaron Jones if you're considering running back in the second round. And yeah, I don't see a reason besides the reasons that you
Oh,
listed
you got
already
8 seconds.
to take anyone else. Oh, all right. Then we're doing Austin Eckler. I think that was already set. So Julio Jones went right after us. That was to be expected. And there goes our first QB. Second QB. That's what you're gonna get with those type of QBs up there, getting the amount of points that any wide receiver running back would.
Right, yeah. So the highlights of the second round was definitely Patrick Mahomes at 208, Lamar Jackson at 211.
Yeah,
And
pause.
then the third round, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 301. He's really being drafted with the expectation to be the starter right off the bat, which
Mm-hmm.
he has really, really strong potential, but I don't expect him to be the starter week one. So it's a little bit risky right at the start. But third round is not bad. And then you got Travis Kelce, 207, George Kittle, 304. And we are on the clock here with the start of Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler. And we're looking at running backs. You got to pull it up here. Chris Carson's at the top. I know we both like him. I think he's right on the edge of a top 15 running back. So if we
Yeah,
locked in 3 top 15 running backs, that'd be a pretty great start. But I say we just glance at the wide receivers here because we don't have one quite yet.
yeah.
And you have Odell Beckham, Mark Cooper, Allen Robinson,
As you see me.
Cooper Kupp. None of those four guys get me super excited. More so Allen Robinson, but you know how high I am on
Mhm.
DJ Moore.
Yeah,
And yeah, so since it's Amari Cooper and Odell Beckham, we're coming right back around. What do you
yeah.
say? I think we go running back and just lock in 3 strong ones since we have 2 flex positions.
Yeah. So another thing is we chose to start at the 11th position in the draft. And I think when you're going from there, I think a first 3 round running back type approach would probably be smarter than if you were getting some more in the mid rounds. You'd probably maybe consider wide receiver at this point. But uh, yeah, I think 3 running backs would be smart. I mean, we do have not as much as the guaranteed type running backs already as our running back two. So if we have one more guarantee, if we need to like switch Chris Carson up and then with our depth put someone on the flex, then we could do that.
Right, and the way I see it is there's a drop off. I think there's a pretty drastic drop off after Chris Carson at the running back here. I think he's the last of a strong tier because then you got Jonathan Taylor. He could be splitting with Hines and Marlon Mack. Devin Singletary splitting with Zach Moss. Mostert, which he has huge upside, he's not guaranteed to be the starter. We saw them have a rotation last year. He was my breakout guy, but still, I don't want to take him right here over Chris Carson. And then Montgomery's guaranteed workload, but he wasn't effective last year. So I just think that Chris Carson just stands alone at the top of all these guys available.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement here.
Fantastic.
Right. So I'm gonna resume the draft. I think I'll be pausing it when we pick, and we're gonna do Chris Carson.
Yeah, because whichever one of these receivers comes back to us, I think we take a wide receiver here at the 4th pick. And
Definitely.
Jonathan Taylor went,
The cup went.
and then Cooper Kupp. I mean, I wasn't going to take Cooper Kupp or Jonathan Taylor. So, I mean, at least I think we made up pretty good there. You got Odell Beckham, Allen Robinson, and DJ Moore.
Yeah.
And Amari Cooper, of course, too, but I don't want him as my wide receiver one personally. You know how high I am on DJ Moore. DJ Moore would be my pick, but I do also like Allen Robinson.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be our difference there. Is I'd probably more lean towards Allen Robinson, though. I say if you want to talk about DJ Moore a little bit, if you want to cover him a little bit right here, why are you so high on him if you were to pick him as your first wide receiver?
Because he was just so consistent and such a strong wide receiver last year. He was finished as a top 12 wide receiver before his injury. He was points per game, and that was with Kyle Allen. That was he is on a terrible offense, and he was much better after the bye. We saw this was his second year, and he had a big improvement, and he just looked like a really strong, great future star receiver to me. And then he's got Teddy Bridgewater coming in here, and he loves those short and intermediate routes, which DJ Moore thrives in. So that's why I really like DJ Moore, and I think he could definitely be a top 10 wide receiver this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess if you're looking at the people, I go away from Odell because of this more split type wide receiver one status. Amari's inconsistency, and then you get into Calvin Ridley, who goes in that wide receiver two status. And Allen Robinson, he's the clear cut wide receiver one in Chicago Bears. He had consistency where there was inconsistency with the quarterback position, and he's a beast of a wide receiver. I think he's very underrated. We both agreed with that. With his size and talent, you could compare to that of some of the more bigger body, more popular names. Not, I wouldn't say strictly Julio Jones, but he does go up there in size that I think not a lot of people know about. Um, so it's basically if you want to go with someone that has proven himself already, or you know that someone's on the upside, but also they're both two underrated people that have kind of been in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I would be happy with either, but yeah, DJ Moore would be my personal pick.
Yeah. I think since we went three strong running backs, I think if you were wanting to make a risk here and something that I would probably agree with is DJ Moore. I'll go with DJ Moore right here, and I think that's a smart decision. So
All
yeah,
right, yeah, and next time, I mean, since I got the pick this time, if we're split on another one, you take the
all right,
tiebreaker next time.
yeah, all right,
I mean, I personally love that start. I mean, Chris Carson as a running back three. I have DJ Moore as a top 10 receiver, and to get him in the fourth round, I absolutely love that. Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler. I mean, they're going to get the workload. I
yeah.
mean, I'm really liking the way it's turned out so far.
I mean, I love Austin Eckler. I think we've gotten one of our like fan favorite type players already, so I can't
Yeah,
argue with it either.
people might think that like Eckler might be a little bit high, but it's there's the depth at the top of the running back position. I mean, it drops off pretty quickly. There's just these tiers.
Mm-hmm.
After Miles Sanders, I think there's a drop off, and we got Eckler right before that. But okay, like I said, we have three running backs, one wide receiver. Looking at the wide receiver position, you
Mm,
see who stands
I
out.
just
So
yeah.
there's DJ Chark there, who we both think is very underrated. Cortland Sutton's up there. I personally wouldn't go with Cortland Sutton here.
Mhm.
Terry McLaurin, he's got upside. Stephon Diggs does too. I think DJ Chark stands atop of these guys. But if we if we were to look at tight end, I'm just curious who would be available here. Okay, so Darren Waller is there, and I think some people would really be tempted by Darren Waller, but I just personally think he's going to have a drop off in the offense because he was the number one wide receiver there last year, and they've added a lot of weapons. So I think his target share is going to come down. I mean, what do you think about Darren Waller?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a strong tight end prospect that you have behind your clear-cut tight ends, which have already been taken. He probably has a little bit more to prove than the ones that have already been taken on the board, so that's probably why he's dropped a little bit. Um, you know me, we know each other. We're not big fans of taking tight ends this early still, and I still would agree with that. I think I could get value at a lower end tight end if he was taken with Hurst, who's probably gonna drop a little more. Higbee, you could even go down to Cook, Jasicki if you really wanted to go for a big gamble right there. So I think I would go more for a shot in the dark value with the tight end and would get some guaranteed other values and running back depth.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I just want to take a glance at the running backs
Yeah,
to
I
see
want
if
to
there's like
get
another
into that.
tier break here. And if Swift, yeah, Damian Williams, Darius Geis, J.K. Dobbins, bleh, it's all just gross right
It
here.
is gross.
Yeah, if we were picking a
There's
running back here,
maybe right here.
man, so a lot of people are really high, really excited about Keyshawn Vaughn. And I was at one point at first too, but then I really think that Ronald Jones is going to have that first and second down work. So I don't know if I think they're just really going to hurt each other unless one guy gets hurt. And we've seen how Bruce Arians is
Mhm.
when somebody young misses pass protection, he'll put him in the doghouse and not play the rest of the game. And since Keyshawn Vaughn's young like that, I think that could happen a lot. And I think some people could be disappointed, but he definitely has the upside. But I've kind of been fading with my excitement for Keyshawn Vaughn personally.
Yeah, I think I still have that glimpse there because you are talking about an offense that's kind of going, of course, reigns over to Tom Brady and older quarterback who's could be that pass catcher that you could rely on that's not his tight end, not his wide receiver. And of course, you're looking at Vaughn. I think I'm lower upside because Ronald Jones, I think they have already now set their Ronald Jones is going to be more the rusher, Vaughn more the pass catcher. So I feel like if Tom Brady has his way, you say Ronald Jones could play first, second down, he might ask for Vaughn a little bit more.
He might, but so
Yeah.
yeah, I think Vaughn is a better pass catcher than Jones, but his stats in college they actually weren't like showing that he was a great pass catcher. I mean, he has potential to be, but he's only like solid. So
Mhm.
and I'd rather take an upside running back later that could have that rushing and pass catching work. But right here, those are guys that are even a little bit further down who could be available later. So I think the pick
Yeah.
right here has to be DJ Chark. To have him as our wide receiver 2 here. I mean, I have him ranked, I think it's 15th or 16th in my rankings, and getting him at the end of the 5th round,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think if you want to look at the people around here, what's kind of interesting is you have young quarterback, young quarterback, young quarterback, young quarterback, young quarterback, whole bunch of just young, young, young. Like it just keeps going. So I think you see that people more above taken are more people that have been in the league. I don't know if that's necessarily a reason you can relate why they're dropping, but I think that's just an interesting point.
Yeah,
Um,
that
as
is
well
interesting.
as well as skill. But DJ Chark, I'm not. I think that's an excellent pick. I don't take Terry McLaurin. I need to see the Redskins quarterback develop a little bit more. His name is escaping my mind. Drew Lock hasn't really proven too much. Stephon Diggs. I love Josh Allen. We're both big fans of Josh Allen. I think he improves every game, but I think for value, DJ Chark definitely is there as the wide receiver one of more pass heavy quarterback that looked a little more promising last year in that department.
Yeah,
So
I say we just go ahead and lock in Chark. Yeah, I just think his quarterback Minshew, I think he showed a lot more promise than Drew Lock and Haskins, and I think he's got a much more upside than Stephon Diggs personally because I think he could get a larger target share, being having many more targets in that offense than the Bills, who I think will run the ball more. Of course, Josh Allen runs the ball. But yeah, we locked in DJ Chark. Right after that went McLaurin and Sutton, and I mean, like we said, the running backs here are gross, and there's still some receivers that are really strong. You got Parker and Stephon Diggs and McLaurin, DJ Chark, Sutton. I mean, this is why we waited, and I don't regret it at all.
Michael Gallup still down there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I would put my opinion here first. I think you guys know how much I love Devontae Parker if you listen to other videos, but just saying now, I think the coach change really helped him. I mean, you can look at a late breakout year as a potential downside, but I think a coach change into a continued possible Ryan Fitzpatrick start because of this crazy off season. I think he'd have great value at the beginning of the season, and if hopefully when um, Tua does play, that hopefully they can develop a little bit more together. And I would be willing to take a risk on Devontae Parker over AJ Green, Brown, Diggs, and but I know you see Cooks right there.
yeah. I think I would take Parker. I think it's close between Cooks and Parker, but yeah, he just showed a lot more last year, and he's right at that prime point in his career. But I mean, I like the quarterback situation better at Cooks, so it's close for me. But I had the tiebreaker last time with DJ Moore, and I'm not leaning super heavy on either direction. So
Yeah,
I'd be happy with Parker. He'd be our last flex position because we have two flexes, and that would round out our starters for running backs and wide receivers.
yeah. And I feel happy if you're mentioning the quarterback position. I think that the quarterbacks in Miami can do enough to still support Parker as he did last year, even if it's alternating. Personally, oh gosh dang. Well, I forgot to pause the draft. So look, we got Darren Waller. You know, he still thought of us. Devontae Parker was take. Oh, you know, let's roll with this. See if this happened. How could we still have a good draft from that?
I mean, I don't hate it because Waller in the sixth round is really not bad. I mean, that's just an unfortunate situation. But
I'm sorry. I'm gonna definitely pause it now. Uh,
yeah, we had it at 5 minutes per pick. I don't know why it changed, but yeah, I mean, Darren Waller. I mean, it's always even though that wasn't our number one choice. I mean, I still would have considered him there, and it's always good to play to see how your draft shakes out when you take a tight end in the middle rounds or a quarterback. This
mhm.
time it's a tight end, and I I can see right now Michael Gallup's at the top of the board, and he's somebody I really like. So I
Yeah,
honestly I have him ranked pretty close to Parker, so I'm not even disappointed about that personally. And have Michael Gallup as a wide receiver three. We were looking at wide receiver, um, but to look at the other guys around him, there's Will Fuller, who the injury risk is just so high. And then you got Tyler Boyd. I don't think his upside's very high. Edelman, he's safe, but same
not,
thing with upside.
yeah.
I just think Michael Gallup, he was on par with Amari Cooper on points per game scored. And believe it or not, since Randall Cobb and Witten left, I mean, with CeeDee Lamb coming in, he's still going to have enough targets, and he's going to have as many as he had last year, and he could potentially have a few more. But Gallup would be my pick, but I would take a glance at the running backs just to see what's there.
Yeah, I think before I go to the running backs, I would definitely just add that the Cowboys, as we mentioned in the videos, they're going to have a high passing volume offense with the defense that has not improved, actually gone down over the offseason. So you can expect that even with their very much weapon-full field of players that they have. I know that I didn't really list that term right, but I mean, of course, you have CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. You have um, Ezekiel Elliott, just a huge offense that's going to be there. But I think Michael Gallup still holds value because of the volume that everyone will get, as well as what you said about being more of that consistent wide receiver. I think personally over Amari Cooper when he's done too.
Yeah, he's more consistent than Amari Cooper, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe his huge weeks aren't quite as big as Amari Cooper's, but I mean, that was just his second year in the league, and he's just going to keep improving. And he plays that X wide receiver position, so I think he's really underrated and a top 25 receiver, personally, fantasy, just right around that area. And to get him at the end of the seventh, I think it's a super great value.
Yeah. All right. Looking at running back, Jordan Howard, who Miami just picked up. He could be potential value there. Not loving that. Personally, out of these people, you get Sonny Michelle with New England. You don't. That's never going to be a promising fantasy backfield until they go into at least narrowing it down to two or three people. I mean, they have a potential five people that could win the job, and I don't see anyone in the offseason like really being ahead except Sonny Michelle, um, who has a little bit more of that status, but still not as strong as someone that I would take right here. I think you could take probably Jordan Howard, who will have more carries and consistency. That you drop into the backups. Marlon Mack is probably going to be the backup for Jonathan Taylor. Maybe start strong this season. Alexander Madison is a strong backup for Dalvin Cook. You know, if he's having that holdout, that actually could be, you never know what's going to happen there. And it just gets worse from there.
Yeah, I honestly I see Sonny Michelle and Jordan Howard fairly similarly because I think they're both going to get volume on the ground and not volume through the air. But I don't think I want. I think Jordan Howard's a little bit better, but I don't think that offense is going to be great rushing the ball. I mean, we saw it last year. I mean, I know they brought in Jordan Howard, he's better, but he's going to get volume, and I don't think his upside's super high. Sonny Michelle is going to get volume, but he didn't look the best last year.
Yeah,
I don't want these running backs. We got three strong ones, and I think we should lock up Michael Gallup with our third pick.
I definitely agree. And just one other thing, I don't think you say the offense not can support rushing for the Dolphins. I don't think New England's offense really can support that much rushing, being that even though they have an amazing defense, more personally, not a bad O line, but a bad offense that might need to develop a little more to be ahead in certain games.
Yeah, but I think the Patriots are going to want to run the ball more. But I said third pick. I meant our third wide receiver pick.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna lock in Goff.
Yeah, that's
Remind
why I
me.
see them so similar because I think the Patriots want to run it more, but Howard's better,
Yeah.
and they're not going to get volume through the air. So they're both kind of icky, but they're volume-based running backs.
hmm Yeah, it's definitely volume based, not I don't think efficiency.
Yeah, and I think so. Right, we just saw Brady and Michelle go, and people might be wondering why we haven't been looking at the quarterbacks. But I mean, there's just a lot of depth there. I
I
don't think
mean, I can
the
show you
return
the
on your
depth.
investment.
Matt
Huh?
Ryan, Josh Allen. I mean, like, yeah, we haven't looked at the quarterbacks, but I know I just jumped in front of you. I'm sorry. But the depth right here, you can see Matt Ryan, Josh Allen, Wentz. You're looking later, Daniel Jones promising. Uh, I mean, you could go for Drew Lock,
Tannehill.
but Tannehill, Jared Goff has dropped a lot. Um, you still have so much promise down lower. Even Gardner Minshew, I might be happy with. Um, I think he could be a potential late round sleeper. I really do. Oh, maybe I don't look at him. Look at him right there. But
Yeah, gosh, Matt Ryan really does tempt me here. But since there's Josh Allen and Carson Wentz, I really like them later too. I think when the our pick comes back around, I think we could grab them. But yeah, right here, I know the running backs are icky, but they're just going to get even ickier. So I think we might have to take our fourth guy here just for the depth.
Mhm.
And I think it's probably going to be Jordan Howard because we know he's going to get the volume.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the rushing attack can be improved. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's just going to be a bye week kind of filler, injury filler.
yeah, I'm just looking down at the lower one, see if anyone like has really dropped. And yeah, obviously no one's really dropped too far.
I mean, I got
Um,
a proposition.
proposition.
I saw a name that I really like lower actually, the running backs, and it's Latavius Murray. And we've seen the Saints, they've been running kind of a split backfield successfully for a while. And Murray had value last year. And even when Kamara got hurt, he was super strong. But even when Kamara was healthy, he still had value. So I wouldn't mind waiting and getting Murray instead. But I also wouldn't mind taking Jordan Howard here.
I think it's a good proposition and a good point to make, but I think with the depth and guaranteed running back, like potential replacement later in the season, I think I would go with running back here because wide receivers are still so, I think, still so deep to be able to pick someone.
I think Jordan Howard, he's the last starting running back left. So I think we should just lock him up. Yeah.
All right.
If you look at all those running backs, they're all backups, and he's the only one that's still a starter.
Yeah. And then
Sweet.
we're
Matt
done.
Ryan went right after stupid Team 11. Get out of my face.
Josh Allen going.
Ooh, yeah, Josh Allen would have been nice to come back. So,
We still got Wentz.
yeah, I would like to get Wentz. There goes Rodgers. I don't care about him.
All right, I
There goes
want to say something before
and
getting back
Stafford.
to this. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's look at what quarterbacks are still available.
All right. First, I want to mention that you see Marvin Jones right here going in the ninth round. That is personally what I believe to be amazing value as a super strong wide receiver too, dropping all the way to the ninth round. He could potentially start, yeah, like I said, as your wide receiver too, and a team would be able to get him that late. So definitely be on the lookout as a late round wide receiver. Marvin Jones, Jamison Crowder, same thing. He's gonna get huge um, numbers thrown to him, and he was his Sam Darnold's go-to guy last year. So I don't really see him dropping with this offseason, maybe towards the end, but Mims doesn't seem to really pose a threat to him, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I think we go ahead and look at what's left at quarterback here.
Yeah.
And there's Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones. So one of these teams took two quarterbacks, which is a little bit unrealistic, but that's whatever. Um, what do you think about what we should do with the quarterback? Do you think we should wait more? Because I would be happy with Tannehill later, and he's a little bit lower down there. I mean, I say we might could just lock him up on the our next pick potentially even.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at just how we are with the 11th pick. I think it might be safer to get a depth here and then go quarterback next round in the 10th.
So we have four running backs, three wide receivers. Let's see what's there at wide receiver. So, okay, there's some interesting names here. CeeDee Lamb, Emmanuel Sanders, Henry Ruggs, Mecole Hardman, Christian Kirk. We know that let's see where Michael Pittman is because I know you really like him. There's
Yeah.
one.
I feel like he if we don't choose him, he might go here, but I really think there's still potential to get him in the 11,
Yeah,
which
we could wait on
definitely
him.
yeah, I don't think I want to take him here. I think Emmanuel Sanders is a promising wide receiver too. I think I mean I'm looking there's a lot of the higher end rookies. I mean personally, I would say Justin Jefferson to me is below Michael Pittman this year, but I think he's very strong still for the
I say
Vikings.
I say at this point of the draft, since we have such a strong starting lineup with their running backs and receivers, I think we take a chance on a guy who could be kind of a league winner. And I personally think that could be Mecole Hardman because if he's the number two receiver on the team, then he could have really strong value because I think he was like top five in the league in passer rating when targeted. He was really strong. Of course, he's on a great pass first offense, and I don't think Sammy Watkins he might not come back to football. Personally, I don't know for sure,
Mhm.
but I know there's some problems there. But yeah, Mecole Hardman is going to be his second year, and we saw how great he was. He can win you weeks, and if he takes the next step forward and he's the second receiver, I think he might be my pick here.
Yeah, I think I would. That's a good point. Man, that kind of threw off my train of thought. I think um, I probably wasn't leaning towards anyone up here. I actually don't know if it was me personally. I see these wide receivers and think that I don't really want that depth right there, and I probably would maybe go for another throw at running back, or maybe getting Lindsey or
If we were going running back, Latavius Murray would be my pick because he's another guy who's
yeah,
at this point in the draft, you want guys who can win you like the league, you know. And Latavius Murray is that guy. If Alvin Kamara goes down, we saw he was like a top 10 guy week in and week out when he was down. He was very strong, and he even has value standalone. So he would be my pick. Of course, there's Tony Pollard at kind of the same situation, but we have not seen Zeke be, injury prone.
yeah,
And he already had the coronavirus. That's a point to bring up. And I think he already has the antibodies and he's healed up. Let's say Alvin Kamara gets it, Latavius Murray can step in. And I just think that's an interesting point because I don't think Zeke is going to be out with coronavirus since he already had it. And Alvin Kamara hasn't. I mean, you got to think about these things in a strange offseason like that.
yeah. I mean, I'm very confused why you're not mentioning Philip Lindsay as much as being a very strong wide receiver to Melvin Gordon, who
Running
has
back?
been slightly injury prone. I pretty sure he hasn't really had any major injuries, but he's had those times where he's been questionable a few weeks, maybe had a week out, and I think maybe Philip Lindsay could be a winner there as well with the young
I
quarterback, them running maybe wanting to run a little bit more.
I'll tell you why I wouldn't not take Philip Lindsay here, and it's because we saw him last year as a starter, and he finished outside the top 20 running backs, and he was the starter. Latavius Murray, when he was the starter, he was a top 10 running back every week. So I think Latavius Murray is a much better pick here, better offense and higher upside. Because we've seen Philip Lindsay's ceiling.
You
He
don't?
he
Do
he
you think that was
wrestled,
the ceiling? Because I know they also wanted to get in Royce Freeman though.
and that just shows that Philip Lindsay was not proving that he was much better than Royce Freeman. If
Well,
Royce Freeman was splitting 50-50.
I don't know if you're splitting 50-50 or that Royce Freeman never really got.
I think they brought in Melvin Gordon because they did not believe in Philip Lindsay as the starting running back.
But the thing is, I don't believe in Melvin Gordon. So
But the Broncos do, and that's what's more
yeah,
important.
I know.
And
I know
like
that's more
like I said,
important.
Philip Lindsay, we saw him as the starter already, and he wasn't great. Latavius Murray, when he was a starter, he was great. And my point about Mecole Hardman, so Sammy Watkins, some people think he had like a great year last year, but he only finished with more than 11 points twice last season. He had that one huge week one, 50 points. But Mecole Hardman, I mean, he was behind him. Sammy Watkins, they targeted him so many times, and he was really bad last season. He had a big game in the playoffs too, but I still think the point to go running back here is a strong one. And Latavius Murray, man, he's the guy.
He's a guy. I see what you're
I could
saying
pull
about
up.
Philip Lindsay. No, no, no. I can see what you mean, but I do believe in the raw talent of Lindsay. I just
All right, so the
might have
two
had
weeks.
no, 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 no. Yeah, I think he might have had a slight regression just in a year, but I don't know. For me, it's too early to judge. But for someone that you believe in right now, and that was shown to be proven a little bit more last year, I'll just go with Latavius.
Well, Murray last year when he was the starter, this was his two games. He had 32 points and 36. That was his two games that started last year. I mean, that's huge. That's week winning. And Philip Lindsay never had weeks like that. We saw that Philip Lindsay was better the year before. Like you said, he regressed a little bit. But I think he's the kind of guy we've seen with like Lamar Miller. Those guys, when they get the workload, their efficiency goes down. They're much better as a change of pace guy.
So do you think he'll be more effective this year?
I think it'd be a little more effective, but his workload is going to be much smaller. So I don't think he's going to be. I still don't think he's going to be great. I personally don't like Philip Lindsay since the team didn't even believe him in as a starter. So they paid Melvin Gordon too much money to come in there and be the starter.
Yeah. All right. I'll go with Latavius Murray.
And
I,
we
I,
know
I
that if
yeah,
Melvin Gordon gets hurt, it could still be a 50-50 split with Freeman and Lindsay. But
yeah,
with Murray, if Kamara goes down, he's the starter.
yeah. And I see your points with Lindsay, and they make sense. So I think because of that, I'll go with Murray, and it's just we have to we'll see. But with who believes in with who you believe in with who's going to be starting, and with no points to go against Murray, besides just saying that I think Kamara's not really injured too often. But again, it's a weekly thing. It's not a season thing. So I see what you're saying.
I don't know. Sean Payton mentioned one point that Alvin Kamara was soft. I thought it was a weird comment last offseason. And I don't know if he wants to give Kamara 100% of the work. I think that's why they brought in Murray once Mark Ingram left. And unfortunately, I love Kamara. But I mean, if he really is soft, maybe we saw that since this past year where he had the biggest workload, maybe that's why he got injured. Maybe he can't handle it. I don't know for sure. I don't want to say that because I love him.
Yeah. No, I love Kamara too. I do. And
All right.
I just chose Tavius Murray right there. I believe in what you're saying. I think one thing I want to bring up is that discussion got a little heated for you viewers out there, for you listeners. And we're not always going to agree on things. And if you're ever between a decision between those two, you're welcome, because you saw you saw both points of those two running backs right there. So we're just talking things out, and this might be like two counterpoints that you're making in your head as yourself in a drafting situation. So I think with the good and the bad, disagreements and agreements, I think those are good points to bring up.
Right. Yeah. And I think since we're at the end of the draft, I don't think we need to take too long on these decisions. I mean, we were saying Pittman later next round, but does that mean we want to go quarterback here or wait till the 12th round?
I think I would wait till the 12th round and get another guaranteed wide receiver here because you see they haven't really changed. I don't think anyone would take CD Lamb right there where they took him among the other wide receivers here. But McCole Hardman's still there, and
Hardman would be my pick because of the
yeah,
upside, just to be a league winner. I mean, we saw Tyreek Hill can get injured too. Sammy Watkins could get injured. I just think that he's on the best offense easily out of all these guys that are available.
yeah. I want to go wide receiver, and I definitely see McCole Hardman as one that stands out. Henry Ruggs, not really going to do much. He's more going to be a distractor than someone that receives the ball. Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Thomas, I don't think has ever been injured since he started. So he's strong wide receiver too, but not someone that you said potential wise with someone that's not going to be starting. Cole Hardman has his upside more.
Yeah,
Christian Kirk devalues because of DeAndre Hopkins, and then it just goes down.
I do like Emmanuel Sanders here, but yeah, just if I want to pick somebody with the upside, like around this point in the draft, which I like to do. I think Hardman's the pick.
Yeah. And I think you saw that it might be interesting to see that they have a wide receiver one and wide receiver two for the Saints, which you haven't really had for a while. I wonder how Sean Payton's going to split between throwing and rushing, but I still think he's going to go a little more with that hybrid, leaning a little bit more towards rushing offense still, with Michael Thomas getting the ball. So McCall Hardman, I agree.
Yeah, we've seen the Saints sometimes they've ran the ball a lot kind of recently. Before this last year, where they had just a lot of touchdowns within the red zone, and they could go back to that. I mean, I think they kind of it's kind of weird because Breeze had such a strong year with touchdowns, and the running game really suffered. I think there's going to be regression, where the running backs are going to get more touchdowns, less throwing touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, Maynard Sanders is definitely not a bad pick, but I'm glad we got Hardman here. And let's see if Pittman came back.
He did come back.
Yeah, Pittman. I say just go ahead and lock it in.
Lock it in.
We've
All
talked a
right,
lot about
guys.
Pittman, and his
Yeah.
upside is really big. Being the number two receiver for Phillip Rivers, and he's
Yeah.
just a great compliment to T.Y. Hilton.
I think amazing upside. Like if there's again, take away that if you get him towards the end of the draft, you made a great pick.
Right. All right. So I think we go ahead and lock up our quarterback here, and
Yep,
I
yep.
think Tannehill is still here. And to get Tannehill in the 12th round, I think that's great value. The other guys available, um, you kind of scroll really far down. There's Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins. I mean, we just saw how great Ryan Tannehill was last season, and we saw his ceiling, which was like a top three quarterback. And I don't know if any of these guys have that kind of upside at this point in the draft.
My see, I know we Tannehill is really good, but I do have the worry that what we saw in the playoffs might be what they go towards a little more. So he might be great when he throws it, but will he get the volume that someone like Jared Goff will? Even if he gets an interception, he could have a good week.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a fair point, but gosh, I wish the Rams did something for their offensive line because
Yeah, I
Jared Goff,
mean,
he's pretty good, but under pressure, he's not, and their offensive line is terrible, and they didn't do anything to address it. So that's just what's holding me back from Jared Goff. Although we saw at the end of last year when they ran more 12 personnel, two tight ends, he did a lot better. He had better blocking, and Higbee had a really strong stretch at that point because Jared Goff was relying on him, and he played well there. So I don't hate Goff here, but
yeah.
Tannehill
In
my pick personally, but yeah, they're both in consideration.
I mean, I'm really thinking about this. If this was between me for my real season, would I go Tannehill or Goff?
And what I
I
like
think,
about Tannehill is
yeah,
he surprisingly he had a fair amount of rushing work on the ground. I mean, he didn't start all season, and it was kind of surprising. He was given like nearly 20 yards. I mean, like a 10, 20-yard floor like every week, which was you don't get that from some of these quarterbacks that aren't Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson and Lamar.
yeah. And now you mentioned the offensive line. Tennessee is the it's not the best offensive line. Derrick Henry really shows a little bit more his talent through like kind of a little bit above average offensive line, but it is still better than the Rams. And because of that, and
Oh,
Jared
for
Goff's
sure.
numbers under pressure, I'm going towards Ryan Tannehill, which yeah, I'm still considering there. And just between those two, putting up those 2 points, I think he's the stronger one there.
Yeah, and since we took a quarterback this late, we can also stream guys like if Jared Goff has a better matchup because I don't know if any quarterbacks can be taken anymore. But yeah, I mean, we could still stream, and that'd be fine too.
Mhm.
But we're coming up
Um,
on our last pick here, and if we're looking at a roster, we have Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, DJ Moore, DJ Chark, Darren Waller, Chris Carson, Michael Gallup for our starters. And for our backups, we have Jordan Howard, Latavius Murray, Nicole Hardman, and Michael Pittman. And since it's our last pick, I say we just pick somebody that we're going to know what their role is week one and if they are going to, give us stronger value than we expect. I mentioned it, I think, in our last mock draft. Some guy who you're going to figure out in week one. And I don't care if we go running back or wide receiver here, but Like you see somebody like honestly Alan Lazard. I do like him because I think he's going to be the number two receiver in Green Bay, and we kind of saw that Devonte Adams in his first year he wasn't great right off the bat, and he he really improved in the second year. I think there's something about getting that chemistry down with Aaron Rodgers, and Alan Lazard is. I mean, actually, Aaron Rodgers is a fan of Alan Lazard. He was telling the coaches that he wants him on the field. He wants Alan Lazard as the number two receiver. And now that he's had a full year on the team, I'm pretty sure he was a rookie last year. I think he's going to have a second year jump personally. And I think we're going to figure it out week one.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And if you look at someone else you're going to figure out week one, I think you could look at Golden Tate if you're having. I'm not really too familiar with the New York Giants wide receivers, but I know that he kind of took a. You're not quite sure how that's going to be developed as of last year, how it was developing with that rookie rising up. But I'm pretty sure that he was probably still going to be the wide receiver one, wide receiver two, depending on what that rookie does. And then you have Sterling Shepard as that. I don't think he's really competing.
Yeah, no, Golden Tate's not a bad pick either because, I mean, he
And
could be the number one, two, or three receiver there. I don't know. They all kind of seem like they're on even ground with Slayton and Shepard because we saw Shepard was really good not this past year because of injuries, but the year before he was pretty strong. But Slayton had a really strong year. He looks to be the outside receiver. I don't know. I can't figure out this whole wide receiver corp. With
yeah,
Golden Tate, I don't know who to take first. It seems like Slayton, he's the highest upside, so he's being taken first. But I mean, Tate's not a bad pick. You can figure him out week one, like we said.
yeah. And then just taking a look at the running backs, you have that knock on why we do not feel Aaron Jones should go as high as he should, and then just not a lot to work with there.
No, there's just pure throw up here.
Yeah.
Nothing, absolute grossness.
No offense to the great Adrian Peterson, but yeah. Um,
Yes.
so I definitely feel like we're agreement with definite wide receiver here, and I just want to look a little bit more. Alan's already made great points. Golden Tate could be good. Maybe looking at some rookies down here. I just want to see what rookies just haven't even taken. Mims, have Hamler, not anything, nothing really promising at all.
Yeah, I think we're getting a little too low now. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm just looking. Yeah,
I think I'd be happy with Lazard or Golden Tate. I mean, even N'Keal Harry, he deserves a look too. So you can make the pick. I don't mind who it is.
I if I was choosing between them, probably someone that was flying under my radar until you mentioned him was Lazard, but I would point to it now that I'm thinking about it. I put him over Golden Tate in my mind because if man, you know, Green Bay's wide receiver one. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name right now.
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. I'm so sorry. He was the guy. He's the guy that's always been the top. I never remember the name of. But if he gets injured, Alan Lazard is primed for potential starting. So I don't
You
know
just get
why.
a lot more targets in that scenario. We've seen Adams get hurt too. Like
Mhm.
not even just last year. He's had a little bit of a history, but yeah, Alan Lazard. Even if Adams is healthy, I mean, I think his upside is pretty big because they don't use the tight end a ton. And Alan Lazard, I just think he's really going to have a year two jump.
Yeah, and I think if you saw last year, they were trying to get Allison involved as kind of like the wide receiver too, and that just did not happen. I
No,
was
but now
kind of
he's
I picked him up as a potential because I knew they were lacking there, and he didn't do anything.
yeah. All the hot talk last year was who's going to be Green Bay's number two receiver? Is it going to be MVS or is it going to be Allison? And neither one of them were good enough, and I think they might both be gone. Maybe MVS is still there, but Alan Lazard looks primed to be the number two guy.
Yeah. All right, so that concludes the mock draft. I think before we close out, I want to just go over who we have one last time. We have for our QB Ryan Tannehill, our two running back one, running back two, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler. I love those picks. Wide receivers, DJ Moore, DJ Chark. I think you're very happy with both of those. I think I definitely am too, loving DJ Chark. And yeah, DJ Moore, nothing more I can say. Darren Waller, surprise pick. But you can't be unhappy with him. We just got guaranteed points tight end. So streaming tight ends last year, I know I did a little bit. It's really not that strong of a group. I think second to running back. So that doesn't make me unhappy at all. Flexes, Chris Carson, Michael Gallup, amazing. Nothing more you could want there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Bench, Jordan Howard, a starter that if he's doing great, if he's Matt Breida doesn't do anything, you could potentially put him up if Chris Carson gets hurt. You just don't know. Latavius Murray, again, you mentioned all the potential that he has. Cole Hardman, potential Michael Pittman. I would maybe be putting as a flex come a certain time because I believe in great things for him. And Alan Lazard. I think it's a great depth draft as well as what we did when that tight end was surprisingly picked.
Yeah, we got our two DJs here at wide receiver. That's all we take. We don't take any other receivers in our starting lineup unless their name is DJ.
That's what
But
it
no,
is.
I love our draft. And Michael Gallup, I mean, we have these three really strong running backs. And you would think that starting with three running backs, your receiver core would be weak. But, man, I love Moore, Chark, and Gallup. And those are all three guys I've talked extensively about, actually. And I love it.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else to say?
I just think that you always got to do mock drafts because and try different scenarios out. Like try scenarios where you go tight end second round or because tight end I think is something that is it's very interesting where you go there because we have Waller here. We saw how our draft shaped up and it worked out just fine and maybe better than what we were going to get before that. And I honestly I think that could be true because I know you were like Devontae Parker, but I think Gallup was a very strong compensatory, pick
Yeah.
there.
I think I'm happy getting Waller over Parker right there because, I mean, I don't know if we were going to tight end again. Hayden Hurst, Tyler Higbee, it kind of drops off a little after that. I mean, maybe Jared Cook, but I'm not. Yeah, I mean, you have decent people there, but he's the prime tight end. So
Yeah, and Hayden Hurst wouldn't have even made it back to us if we didn't take Waller there. But before our picks, there's Gronk, Ingram, and Hurst went, so we wouldn't have had a choice at any of them.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean it shaped out pretty well for us.
yeah. All right. So let me get this ready. So thank you guys for listening to our mock draft. We had a lot of fun and we really enjoyed the outcome that it had. And if you like what you heard or like what you saw, then subscribe to our YouTube channel at FF Fanatics. If you want to go support us somewhere else, you can go to Instagram and Twitter at FF Fanatics11. And if you want to just listen to the audio, you can go to Podbean at FF Fanatics. And thank you guys.